tablespoon and a half of vegetable oil in my pan there, and it's on a sort of a medium-low heat. In goes some cumin seeds, or what we call jeera. This is not the toasted one, this is just plain old cumin seeds that I have. What I want to do is to sort of, it's the building blocks as usual, as with most of the recipes. Well, all of the recipes I share with you all. Sort of like the foundation of flavor that we're building here. So we're going to start with that cumin seed, or again, in the Caribbean we know it as jeera. I'll also add onion, and you'll notice very big pieces, because what I want with this dish when I make it, I want textures, and this is how I'm going to get that texture. Later on you'll see when I use tomato. Yes, we are using mackerel in tomato sauce from a can, and I want to build on that tomato flavor. So I will use tomato later on, and it's going to be nice big chunky pieces. If you've ever been to the Indian restaurants, you'd see in their curry dishes they always have nice big chunky pieces of onion, bell pepper, and of course tomato in there. And that is what I want to replicate, those nice big textures. I have my Caribbean green seasoning, so a tablespoon of that Caribbean green seasoning. Just gonna move that around, and you're already getting that nutty sort of fragrance from the jeera being in the pot there. I don't want to burn anything, so I'm gonna turn my heat down ever so lightly and just let that all come together in the pot here. I heat a green Scotch bonnet pepper. Again, notice nice big pieces. And one of the reasons for having the big pieces with the Scotch bonnet pepper, and you notice the seeds and everything is in there. First of all, the green Scotch bonnet pepper is not mature, which means it's not overly hot. You will get a bit of heat from it, but nothing as much as a fully mature ripe. It could be either red or yellow or orange, depending on the variety of Scotch bonnet pepper that you have access to once they're ripe and fully mature. So you will get a bit of heat from it, but you'll also get a different flavor from it. If you don't have it, you can use habanero pepper, jalapeno, whatever spicy pepper you like. Now, you can leave it out, totally optional. If heat is not your thing, of course, don't mess with it. It would be insane to think that you're doing a curry without garlic. So I have 5 cloves of garlic that I smashed. And I'm going to turn my heat all the way down to low because I don't want anything to burn, especially that garlic at this point. Fresh ground black pepper. And if this is your first time watching me cook, or you're new to Caribbean cuisine, Caribbean green seasoning, and here again it is. And to maintain that nice bright vibrant color and the flavors of the herbs, I use olive oil as my base in making my green seasoning. And essentially what it is a sort of a blend or a puree of all the herbs we like using in our dishes. The Spanish speaking Caribbean got a version of it, the French speaking Caribbean got a version of it, and you will see differences in each version. But the point is, that is the sort of base we use for generally all of our cooking. And along with herbs, fresh herbs, we also use seasoning peppers, garlic, all those different things in there. And the seasoning peppers would be called pimento peppers. Now that we have that lovely base there, it's time for the curry powder. And you can use your favorite curry powder, totally up to you. What we want to do now is allow that to sort of fry or toast in a wet toast in the oil here, which will sort of bloom all of the flavors of all the spices which makes up a curry powder. Just gonna move that around because we want the entire bottom of the pot here to be coated in that curry. Direct heat there will allow it to bloom, as I said, and you can see it's already starting to come together. It's now time to add the mackerel, and I'm just gonna rinse that out with about quarter cup of water, about half a cup of water to add to the pot here. But before we do, I want to make sure everything marries together just a little bit, just to flavor everything. Now at this point, what you can do if you wanted is to break up the pieces of fish, which I will do. I will just cut them in half with my spoon. like so. I don't want to make too much of a mush out of it, but you want some nice big pieces. You want, when you serve this, that there are actual signs that there is that mackerel in here. That's another quick little mix. And of course, I said we need some water. We're gonna bring that up to a boil, sort of a simmer. Just gonna move that around a little bit. I don't want to use my spoon too much in there because I really don't want to break up the fish. However, that said, if you wanted to break up the fish, you can certainly do that. You know, we're almost done. One of the things I will impress on you is that I will not add any salt to this whatsoever, because I find that the can, you know, anything in a can usually is high in sodium, and I'm really trying my best to watch my sodium intake. So in about, you know, after you add the tomato, you can taste it, because of course once you add the tomato in there, you may need some salt, and adjust it at that point to your sort of your preference. Yeah, it's been going now for about, I added a bit more water, so 3/4 cups of water in total. I should have mentioned that to you all, because I want, and you know, this is something you would eat with roti or with steamed rice. Man, your favorite rice, this on the side there, ground provision, even boil and fry cassava, breadfruit, whatever it is. You need a carb to go with this, yeah? I'm just gonna turn my heat down just a little bit, but I did add a bit more water, so I have ample gravy for everybody. Here is where I'll add that nice big chunky pieces of tomato. I don't have shadow benny, but what I do have is cilantro. Some of you call it coriander. And that is how we're gonna finish things up. This is almost done. Ooh, making a whole bunch of noise here, Uncle Chris. I'm gonna stir that. Whoa, making a mess on the stove too, boy. One of my favorite things to do is to make a mess so I have work later on to clean up. But anyhow, what you want to do here now is give this a minute, no more. Taste it for salt, adjust it, because I want the tomato to hold on to its sort of shape, its integrity. I ain't trying to undo the textures that I'm looking for. Because what's going to happen is when you're eating this with your rice or your roti or whatever, that tomato is going to be bursting with juices and flavors and stuff like that as well too. So you have a combination of the textures from the big pieces of onion, the big pieces of tomato. Of course, we see some of the actual integrity of the fish as well. And you know, there's only one more thing I would do here is a bit of lime juice. You're gonna hit that a little squirt to just get the sort of fishy smell out of it, or the sort of undertone that you will still get. Yeah, that canned fish can be a bit strong in scent and flavor. As I turn off my stove, this is when we're gonna go in with that lime juice. Just a little bit, just all the way through, yeah? That's gonna brighten it up quite honestly, yeah? Chris here, CaribbeanPod.com. Always a pleasure having you all in the kitchen with me. You know, I totally forgot it was the Lenten season and everybody's trying to look for I don't know, usually this time of the year fish is so expensive, especially if you live in North America where it has to be imported. Everybody's looking for something economical, and then a can of mackerel and tomato sauce. We made a lovely curry with it, and you know, you're really going to enjoy those big pieces of tomato. And you know, if you want to put bell peppers in there, zucchini, whatever else you want to put to stretch it for more people, because quite honestly with this here, 4 or 5 people easily with some, you know, even if it's boiled potatoes you're having it with, you know, rock that sweet potato, whatever. But in my case here, hot rice, and you know, if I'm lucky, I'll find some cucumber in the fridge there, and I'm good. All right.